So it's been a few months. The snow is obviously gone now, so I can finally get back to working on it. I'm not sure what I did film and didn't film. I kind of filmed quite a bit at the start when I first got it and stopped working on it for a bit while it was covered in snow. But I know for sure I have videos up of the body panels being taken off, and besides that I haven't done a whole lot. I got some of the extra wiring, you can see disconnected. This is kind of what passes as a fuse panel, I think, on this truck. And the only other thing is that yesterday I finally got the drive shaft disconnected from the rear axle. Now there is a carrier or steady bearing here, which I'm not looking forward to replacing, but I had to take this guy off in order to take off the side that fits to the transmission up front. So today we're going to take a look at disconnecting everything else and possibly maybe getting this engine out. If you've seen the first video I posted, then I'll probably put a little clip of that in there now. Oh. Okay. Oh yeah. That is not oil. Then you've seen the you've seen the oil water mixture coming out of the pan, so I know this engine is no good, so we're not even going to worry about trying to save it. We're just going to get under the truck and start disconnecting stuff. So going under a truck for the moment, this is the don't fall now. This is the drive shaft coming out of the transmission. You can see that it is already mostly disconnected. Now I can't fully disconnect it because I just don't have the room. There we go. You can see that this guy is butted firmly against there. This is the other side of the drive shaft. I just don't have the room to pull him back and free him from this transmission. But I figure I'll do kind of a quick tour underneath of the truck. It's a rat's nest. Literally, in fact. That's what's left of some critters' home. A lot of it's come down already. You can kind of see underneath of it there. There's our master cylinder with some brake lines coming out of it. And the brake lines surprisingly look pretty decent for something that's older than my father. But they've been worked on before. And you can see they're not really terribly straight. I'm just going to redo them all. I'm not going to keep brake lines that old on the truck. There's also a hydraulic booster, a remote hydraulic booster, which I'm going to have to replace too. Now, I apologize, I don't have my widescreen GoPro right now, so you may notice video quality pops in and out. But we'll just have to make do. So one thing I noticed, which was kind of neat, I'm not, the truck's way older than I am. I'm not super familiar with them. But the parking brake, and that is this guy here. You can see where he connects up top there. He doesn't actually go to he doesn't go to the brakes like I would have thought. He connects right here, and this actually just stops the drive shaft from turning, which I thought was really neat. I've not seen one like that before. I don't know if that's popular in older trucks. Maybe it is. This transmission also came with a PTO, which rotates very nicely. Unfortunately, it's not likely that I'm going to find another transmission with the PTO to put back in here. So that's kind of too bad, but it is what it is. It's not going to be running anything anyway. So if we look at what we need to disconnect, I like that I'm actually sitting up normally right now. It's nice to have so much room under here. We need to disconnect this guy so that we can drop this transmission out. I'm not sure where the best spot to disconnect him is. I think it might be, sorry, camera shut off on me there. I think it might be those two bolts, this guy here and that one there in the end. And I think that should let me take this whole, it should let me disconnect the handle. I hope. I don't really know if that's the case. And also, some of these bolts are in pretty poor condition. I don't really know if they're going to come out. With that guy down there. If that fails totally, what I could do, maybe, is I might be able to disconnect the linkage back here. Come on, focus. There we go. Disconnect the linkage back this way. And then maybe try and drop the transmission straight down. But that's not really the concern today. Today I just want to get the engine out. So I actually found in a library, an online library, a service manual for this truck, a complete service manual. It's 600 something pages for all of the L and R line trucks. So I went on there to figure out how to disconnect the transmission, just to make sure there was no little tips or secrets I was missing out on. And the instructions say, it's one step, and it says, and I quote, disconnect transmission. So yeah, that's what we're working with. So I guess we'll just kind of take a look at it. I would like to bring the engine and transmission out as one unit, but it's not going to fit. You can see there's not a whole lot of clearance there. The that cross member you see kind of in the bottom right hand corner of your screen right now, right about there he is, right about there. Between him and the top of the transmission, there's not enough room really to get it out. So I'm gonna try to disconnect it. I'll show you why that might be difficult. So if we take a look at where this engine needs to disconnect from the bell housing, you can see we've got our 4 bolts there. I don't know if there's any up top. I actually use the camera to look. I see a plate. Anyway, there's 2 more of these bolts on the other side there. I don't think there's anyone underneath. Not that I can see. But the big problem, you see the top of this very tiny flush bolt, which has an M on them. So if you look underneath that, got that castle nut down there in the bottom. And on the other side of this cross member, this, by the way, this is just oil. There's no like actual rust holes there. There's the other one, and see how that that washer is bent over. I have no idea if I could possibly get a socket onto that. I don't know how that's gonna work. You know, the distance between this guy and there. Well, there's my skinny finger for scale. You know, that's not a whole lot. So that could be rough, and that combined with a very, very tiny little head size on those bolts, I'm not totally certain how I'm gonna get that guy out of there. Well, that first one worked out surprisingly easy. Yep. The bolt is still in there, but that's fine. I got the castle nut off. This guy, though. Well, let's try and go 2 for 2, I guess. Wow. That worked way better than I thought it would. Cool. Well, that went way better than I ever would have dreamed. Those actually both came out. You can see that the head is up there right now, still. But then the nut came out of the bottom there, and I can just beat that up with a hammer later on when I want that out, when I actually go to take the engine out. But for now, the next step in taking out this transmission so that we can drop the engine is going to be these bolts there. And again, that goes up to our parking brake, which is the drive shaft type. So it might be possible for me to, and I'm pretty sure how rusted this guy is shows up. That's a rough looking nut. Come on, focus. There we go. Yeah, that guy's having a rough time. And this one up top, he's not really in any better shape. If those do come out, let's see, there's his backing. If they do come out, then I might be able to just disconnect that whole handle. I'm sure you can hear in my voice, I'm not super optimistic about this. You know, I could maybe disconnect this linkage here. No, actually that wouldn't do it either. So yeah, I basically have to get that handle out of there. Worst case scenario, I could cut it. I really don't want to cut it. Out of there. Let's see what I'm doing. That would be kind of a shame to lose this, I think. What's this guy? What is it? Is it nothing? Okay, well, I'll formulate a plan, and then we'll come back and you can watch me not do it properly. Okay, so I think I've got it sorted out how I'm going to get this shifter handle off of there. My plan is to go for this guy right here, who holds this whole back plate on. So I take him off, and there's one more kind of peep down. Yeah, you see him right at the tip of my finger right now. He's back in. Where are we at? Right there. So I'm going to take those guys off, which will free this whole bracket here, this back bracket. And then I'm probably just going to cut this guy. Sorry for the filming, it's really difficult to move in here. And then I'm going to cut this guy off. Because, I mean, it doesn't show up well on camera. He's pretty bent. And, you know, it's just more or less just a rod of all thread with an eye on the end of it. If I do, for some reason, end up reusing this transmission at some point in the future, somehow, it's not a big deal for me to just have another one of these made. So I'm just going to cut this, disconnect this back guy, and hopefully then it should be free. Now, I do have just one little problem, which is that this guy, I can get at him no problem. You know, I can come in straight with an impactor, buzz him off. The other guy, bear with me for a second, I got a whole bunch of tools on my lap. Oh, and a smartphone. Set that down gently. The other guy is up there. You can see him right in there. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get him out. I'm going to try and put a spanner on him. I'll come to that bridge when I cross it in a minute, though. I've had pretty good luck so far, but I don't want to curse myself. So I decided to go right for the more complicated piece, the one that was more likely to be stuck. And believe it or not, after after a good bit of wrenching on it, and I actually thought at one point that I had broken it, but turns out I haven't. And that piece, that bolt, sorry I'm not articulating myself well, is actually coming out. And I'm getting footage of this because I am incredibly shocked. I gave it a real hard push there, and I actually thought that there we go, that's out. It's not going to come out because it doesn't have the rim to clear, but that's okay. I had actually thought that I'd stripped it, and I was pretty sure I had stripped it, and I decided I'd put the tool on it back for one more push, and then I noticed the head was spinning. So yeah, I'm just going to put the impactor on the other side now, the little impactor, and I should be able to spin that one out, you know, no problem. And then yeah, that'll make me 4 for 4 on rusted bolts today. I thought I was going to have an issue with. Pretty good day. Nice first day of working on the truck in spring. Well, that worked out really well. I got this guy out. He was wherever he was on the side here, and then this immediately fell down, so this is free. And now the only thing holding it on is this rod, which I could cut, That is what I said I was going to do earlier. But if we take a look at where he connects right here, you see all that's holding him on is that, that little pin. So if I can get that guy out, which maybe I might be able to do, then I won't even have to worry about cutting that at all, which I'm certain doesn't make a difference at this point. I mean, it's not likely to be reused, but I just feel better about doing it that way. So we'll give that a shot. Yeah, unfortunately, there's just no way I'm going to be able to film myself beating that out of there. Not enough room, so you're just going to have to believe that I didn't have my wife come do it for me. I have never in my life made such astounding progress in the truck so quickly. I actually got, you can see I got the bolt out of that eye. Let's move him to the side. Hang up there. And I think this guy should more or less, well, he's free now anyway. Come on. Good job filming that, Bennett. Anyway, came out of the hole. Trying to film with my left. I'm surprised he fit. So, yeah. Wow. Come out of the way. Yeah, that opens things up a little bit too, doesn't it? So now we've just got this wire left. I'm not really sure. He's just a sensor for something, maybe? I'll have to follow him up and see where he goes. There's this wire here that needs to come out. This is for the, I have a 2-speed rear end with an electric shift. And that's just the cable for that. And, got my clothes hung up. Is that it? I'm sure there's probably one or two little other jobbies here before I drop this transmission, but that was the worst of it anyway. I mean, except for actually, you know, getting those big bolts out and then pulling it back a bit. All right, I'll bring it back in a moment when I've got my thoughts collected a little more, and we'll take a look at what's next on the list. Okay, so with everything else disconnected, I've got the speedometer and the PTO cable are both taken off the transmission now. I also have this drive shaft. Sorry for the shadows, I'm filming from behind the truck. So you see I've got the U-joint the rest of the way out now, but this drive shaft is still almost pushed hard up against the back of the transmission there. So if you follow the drive shaft back, you see this carrier bearing, which is holding it in place. So I'm gonna have to take him out. Steady bearing, sorry, I guess is technically the proper term for this. So it's got some bolts on this side. Don't look so bad. Then around the other side, you can see the nuts that hold them in. I've never taken one like this out. Like, I don't know, you know, see these little screw heads here. I don't know about them. If they have to come out, I think this whole sort of collar that wraps around there probably has to come off. So we'll just start removing things and, you know, see how she goes. Might actually put you on a stand for this one too. So unfortunately I had to stop filming the other day. I got called in for work, and then when I got back it rained for a day or two, so everything is a bit wet, but at least today it's nice enough to get back at it. So what I'm looking to do right now is we're going to have to pull this drive shaft out of that carrier bearing that's in the middle there, so that we can pull them far enough away from the transmission that we can drop the transmission and get that out of our way. So I've never taken one of these out, but from what I understand, there's a bunch of 9/16 bolts go around this colander here, and they're all back with nuts on the other side. And my hope is that I can just pull this out and then pull the whole drive shaft back. I don't know if there's going to be more to it in there. I'm sure you can see like the moss and some of the growth in there. You know, I'm sure this hasn't been off the truck since long before I've been alive, but you know, we'll just start unthreading things and see how it works out. Okay, so we got the bolts out of there. You can see they all came out all the way around okay. And it even separated from the cross member a little bit. And it's loose, so that's nice. I thought I was going to have to get a pry bar on to get that guy off of there. And now on the back, you can see we've got this guy, this collar there. So obviously he's not going to fit through that hole, so we can't fit the drive, or we can't slip the drive shaft back far enough yet to drop that transmission. So the next step is we're going to have to undo those 2 screws there. There's 2 more on the other side as well. And hopefully then, if that comes out of there, we'll be able to slip the drive shaft back. And if it doesn't come out, then we might just have to cut that off. I don't have a whole lot of faith in those screw heads holding up, but we've been really lucky so far. So we'll give that another shot. Well, you can see I got that guy off there without too much trouble. He's not very much good, I don't think. He's pretty rusty, pretty thin. I only ended up having to take off one side. You can see by my thumb there, I did have to break the grinder out. Oh yeah, and there he is. These are all cracked through there. And this is what we're left with. See, there's not much left of the seal, and I can't see in there, but maybe you guys can. I don't think there's anything savable kicking around. So we'll probably put these back in the tripod, or rather, we'll get the other camera and put that on the tripod, and then we'll try and haul this guy backwards. Oh yeah. That actually spins pretty freely. I don't know if you can see me spinning that or not from over there, but yeah, that spins nicely. And now the whole thing is out. So, oh boy, she's real heavy. Well, that might come out of there, but it's going to need a little bit of persuasion, so I'll leave it for now. We're just getting so lucky with all these fasteners coming out and things, you know, working. I'm not used to that on this truck. When I was taking the body panels and stuff off, I broke every single head off of every single bolt, and it was atrocious. Since I started removing the transmission the other day, everything's coming out nice. Probably jinxing myself, though. I should stop talking. Okay, well, now that that drive shaft is removed, we should be able to just drop the transmission now, which is maybe easier said than done. So the only things left connecting it, as far as I can tell, is that big bolt you see there in the middle of your screen, one more beneath it, and then on the other side you have those 2 more bolts, and I think those are the only things left. I'm hoping I should be able to just spin those out and then pull the transmission back off the shaft, and I think the whole thing should drop. I don't see any fasteners up top, and I don't see any fasteners down below. So we'll get some sockets and we'll come back and give that a shot. So looking at this transmission, I thought it was a little bit strange that it had only 2 bolts, one there and one there, on each side holding it up. I kind of felt like there should be more, and I was just in the process of removing those guys when I realized that if you look underneath, I'm pretty sure that this glob is a bolt, because there's one on the other side too. So that brings us up to 6. Now, get us back into view a little bit here better. That guy's easy. Well, this guy's not so easy because I gotta undo him just with a long-handled wrench. But that guy and that guy are not so bad. This, I don't know what's under here. I don't know if we're gonna find the head of a bolt under here. I don't think we are, because I think this is actually the head of the bolt, which means I have to back him out into the cross member. Yeah, there's no. Is there a hole there? Oh, there's a hole there. Yeah, not big enough though. I'm not sure if that hole's supposed to be there either. So that could be a pain. We got one of those to do on both sides as well. Yay! Now, I had to break quite a bit, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 inch of gunk off it. You can see the top guy's still covered. So with that in mind, I wonder, you know, when are we going to see how to do this with one hand? Under this. And see how thick, how much crud is on there. It's a lot. Oh. There we go. See, he's got that same red color too. I'm not sure exactly what the paint code is for this truck. Oh, international red, I guess. I'll have to try and find that somewhere when I go to repaint them someday. So I can happily report that I was right about that. Nobody tell my wife. You can see here's the head of the bolt, and here's the back, and I can see where that bolt went through, and I did this side first. I broke all the cook off of him, and I was really worried for a moment. There should have been a head there that was gone, but luckily that's not the case. The head is there. See him clear as day. I don't know if he's going to line up with that hole or not. It doesn't really look like he does. That might actually be the first rust hole I've seen on the body, or on the undercarriage of the truck. I'm not sure what's up with that. But if we come over to the other side, sorry, this is a little bit, there we start at, and we're going to go around, and we're going to go around, and over to the other side of the transmission. If we're looking before and after, you know, this is what we started with. So in here somewhere, and this one, it looks flush, there's so much gunk on it. We're going to break all of this off, and then get that guy out. I'll show you a little picture of that when it's all done. Here we go, so we got her all cleaned off now. It came off pretty easy on the side. The other side really fought me. And I'm amazed at just how clean that looks. You know, that could be a brand new bolt. Well, the other bolts are rusty, but these ones were so covered in gunk that they stayed nice. And I'm also happy to report that if we come around here and look at the top side of this cross member, or front side, I guess. So this side also has a hole, and that side has a hole, so it must be a factory hole. Where are we at? Here we are. You can see how I've beaten the gunk off, and if I look at it on the side, you can see just how thick that shit's on there, you know? This, that's not rust, it's just, just 50 years, well, geez, more than that, 65 years, I guess, worth of motor oil. I can also now happily report that I know what motor oil from the 50s tastes like, and it's garbage. It tastes like garbage. Don't try it. It's very bad. So I'm gonna see if I can't get a socket through there. Kind of doubt that I can. It still doesn't really line up. Like the bottom of this hole. Yeah, I don't think I can get a socket through that, but I'll give it a shot. So if you happen to watch another one of my videos on this truck, you may know that one of my personal gripes with it is that it feels like no two bolts are the same size. So this bolt, which is underneath the driver's side of the transmission, is 7/8. And if we come over to this bolt, which is one you saw me clear off earlier, it's 1 inch. And I have no idea why there's different bolts used in different spots. I mean, some places I understand, you know, it was an old farm truck, people worked with what they had. But these bolts have probably never been out. Plus, you know, that's a big size difference. They need to be threaded differently and stuff into the transmission. I don't know. I just don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. I had to share them. Gosh, that drives me wild about this truck. So apparently I lost a little bit of audio and footage here, and all I have left is what's on this GoPro, so you'll just have to make do with me here. At this point, I have the bottom of the transmission supported with a jack to make sure that it doesn't fall on my head when I'm working under it, and I also have all of those heavy-duty bolts that we were looking at earlier. They were all removed, except for one on the top of each side of the transmission, which I left in slightly so that in the odd chance that the transmission does come down too easily, it won't just slip and fall to the ground. That transmission coming down so easily is a pretty optimistic thought, though. So here I'm removing one of the last two bolts holding the transmission in. There's still one more on the opposite side, but it's hardly threaded in at all, so the transmission should be able to start backing out at this point. You may also notice that the transmission has started to sag slightly. That's because I adjusted the floor jack a few times just to make sure that the transmission was coming free. So here I have moved the GoPro closer so that you can see the gap that's opening up on the right between the bell housing and the transmission. To help widen that gap a little, I got an old pry bar and slid it in between them and then wrenched on that a bit, and that worked pretty well. It bought me a few good inches, which is more than I can say for those pills I bought online. Eventually I had some more luck and the transmission pulls clear of the bell housing completely, except now my shifter handle is caught on the floor, which is keeping me from pulling the transmission back far enough to get that input shaft clear of the bell housing. I knew this could be an issue before I started, but I can't remove the handle because the bolts that are holding that assembly in place have been exposed to the elements for like 30 plus years inside of that open cab, and there's just not enough meat left on those bolt heads to do anything with. They disintegrate the moment you touch them. So I try moving it around with a jack a little bit, but it's no use. That handle is going to have to come off there. And that's a shame because I really wanted to keep that shifter, but maybe that's just my inner hoarder talking a little bit. Here I finally accepted my fate, and I'm cutting the shifter so that it will slide under the floor, and I can pull the whole thing a little bit further back so that I can drop it down. I seriously considered cutting the floor itself here just to save that handle, but that would have taken way longer, and I didn't want to bug the neighbors with that much grinding noise that late at night. So after the shifter is cut, I start to lower the jack, and pretty much as soon as I do that, the input shaft comes free of the bell housing and the transmission finally drops, along with my GoPro. Luckily though, the transmission didn't land on it or damage it, but it was a lot closer than I would have liked. All things considered though, that went pretty well. I would definitely kill for a lift large enough to bring this truck up in the air though. You know, along with the rest of a proper garage to go with it. This is just a quick shot showing what looks to be a nest of some kind inside of the bell housing. If you haven't seen my first video where I show a little bit of the interior of the truck when I first got it, it was a lot like this nest, except it was the entire cab. There was just nowhere on this truck that rodents didn't live. Well, we finally got our transmission out. Unfortunately, it took us about as much time toying with the drive shaft as it did with the transmission, but this is still a learning process to me. I'm not super familiar with these trucks. But I'm really glad that we've got that out. So the next thing we can move on to in the next episode will be the removal of the engine. So if you want to see that, then you can subscribe, and I guess liking videos helps an awful lot with helping people find me, so that would be great too. And I will hopefully see you for the next one. Thanks.